Homage teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Manjushri, the embodiment of wisdom and courage. Homage to compassionate, the profound subtle Dharma is rare in eons. See, hear, receive, uphold. Know true meaning of Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please arouse the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta. Now, next, we will continue our in-depth study on the rarity of human rebirth. Within the topic of the rarity of human rebirth, we are now discussing the fourth point, reflecting on the difference in numbers. In this section, the main focus is mainly and specifically on comparing the number of practitioners with the number of non-practicing sentient beings. Later on, you will gradually come to understand that in reality, there are actually very few people who genuinely and sincerely practice Buddhism. We will come to realize this point soon. That is why recently we have also been urging everyone to engage in actual practice. Actual practice is without a doubt extremely important, truly essential for each and every one of us. If, relying on the precious and extremely rare human rebirth, we do not cut off our strong attachment to this present life, then our practice will not succeed. Therefore, first of all, we do not emphasize attaining some advanced teachings at this stage, or receiving the most supreme empowerments, engaging in Chan meditation, or other such practices. At the very beginning, as beginners, we must make sure to practice the preliminaries well and lay a solid foundation. If you truly, from the bottom of your heart, gain insight and experience from the content taught in the preliminaries, then you will inevitably go on to practice other teachings. And naturally, over time, you will gradually develop and cultivate a truly remarkable and very powerful inner strength. If you do not really lay such a solid foundation, then even if, on the surface, you seem to have attained many states and profound advanced teachings, these concepts may not necessarily remain in your mind or memory for the long term. They might fade or be forgotten over time. This is something we have learned from long experience over many, many years, and it is also the distilled, timeless wisdom passed down to us by all the great masters and elders of the past. Therefore, fellow practitioners present here must understand the content of the preliminaries. After you understand it, reflect on it. The text is clear and easy to understand. There's nothing difficult about it. I think everyone should be able to grasp the literal meaning. But to truly and fully feel and experience its content in its entirety, not only to have an understanding, but to let it permeate your mind over the long term, there probably are not many people, I think, who can do that. So in Buddhism, the most important thing is to gain firm conviction for yourself. This is absolutely, undeniably crucial. For example, we say that a human life is hard to obtain. Everyone can say that. Dharma masters say human life is hard to obtain, Dharma hard to encounter. Anyone who studies Buddhism can recite this concept. But how many people truly feel this in their hearts? How many have realized through practice that human life is hard to obtain? Whether you're doing anything during the day or sleeping at night, even the general majesty, even in ordinary deportment throughout this process, do you always keep it in mind? It truly is very difficult to obtain a precious human life. This deep conviction is not simply a matter of just repeating what others say. It's not because a teacher says human life's hard to obtain or because the guru says so. So maybe a human life is hard to obtain. It's not like that. Rather, it's because you have genuinely felt it yourself. For example, when your hand comes into contact with a blazing, burning flame, it feels extremely, almost unbearably hot. No matter what others say, you have a very strong personal experience of it. If others say this is cool and refreshing, you simply won't agree. You'll say, no, it's extremely hot. If you realize the rarity of human life through practice, if this understanding naturally arises from deep within your mind, then when others say life is joyful, life is beautiful, even if you choose to use all kinds of words, phrases, or even outright lies, no matter how convincing or elaborate they may seem, you will find that you are not truly after your own practice and realization, you truly know that a human life is not just ordinarily hard to obtain. You have a kind of personal realization. This is what's called true insight. The Chinese character Wu, enlightenment or realization, is made of the characters for heart and self combined together to form Wu. So it's not about what others say or about your physical body or external circumstances. It should be that your own mind has fully experienced and understood its true nature. This is what is meant by insight or realization. When it comes to the preliminary practices, are there people who have attained realization? Yes, there are. No matter what anyone else says, they absolutely will not be swayed. Not at all. In the end, even if thousands of people come before you today and say, a human body is easy to get. Human life is full of happiness. If they say this, you will not be swayed because, rare and precious human life is... You just think that these people simply don't understand what I'm talking about. So, the faith in Buddhism is not superstition. It is truly a faith based on wisdom. Why do I say this? Because faith in Buddhism, for many people, always begins with a sense of doubt. After this doubt arises, you observe and investigate and then dispel your doubts. Once your doubts are dispelled, you gain conviction. This is sincere faith or faith born of understanding. Such faith is in fact very rare in the world in general. Those interested in natural sciences, or those who continually pursue a variety of worldly theories and philosophies, they also believe that having interest is necessary. Without interest, it is impossible to truly succeed. However, this kind of interest can very easily contain elements of superstition. The highest form of faith in Buddhism should come from one's own careful and meticulous observation, resulting in a truly infallible conclusion. This is called faith. The Buddha also said in the scriptures that you should thoroughly examine my teachings, just like refining gold. Repeatedly scrutinize my words and not accept or revere them or hold them in high regard. Simply because I said them, it should not be like that. Even the Buddha's Vajra words, profound and powerful, allow us to carefully investigate and thoroughly examine them. If we think it is unreasonable, we can raise unreasonable arguments. So this kind of philosophy is truly in line with truth and reality. This is the goal we aspire to. When this aspiration matures, it is called genuine faith. Therefore, on the surface, it seems that obtaining a human body is difficult. But in fact, it is just one of the common preliminary practices among the 5 preliminary practices. However, if you go even deeper into it, you'll see and contemplate its content in a more detailed way, then it actually involves many aspects and levels of spiritual practice. So, generally speaking, at the very, very beginning, it's like how children in the secular world learn to read, starting with pinyin. If you don't learn pinyin well, it's just like me. I never learned pinyin, so now when I speak Chinese, you all laugh. I feel embarrassed myself, but there's nothing I can do about it now. At this point, it's too late to change. In the same way, if someone hasn't laid a solid foundation in the preliminary practices, then when you try to practice many advanced teachings later on, it becomes very troublesome. At that point, it's hard for most people to turn things around. Childhood is a time to learn knowledge. But when you grow up and grow as a person, start learning basics like BPMF just won't work. Same principle. Nowadays, many practitioners start off on the wrong foot right from the beginning, including some lamas who themselves, indeed, in appearance, have not properly practiced the preliminary practices. Not practicing the preliminaries is that when they guide others, it's also not particularly systematic or sequential. As a result, many of their own dedicated Vajra disciples end up being drawn into other schools or traditions. This is truly indeed regrettable. Nowadays, some so-called lamas, honestly, in fact, do not value these systematic and sequential teachings. Some people study very diligently, but some lamas say, they tell you to go to such and such a place, saying the blessings there are great, and tell you to go into retreat. I personally feel it's a bit of a pity, but there's nothing I can do about it. After all, they are his disciples, so I don't have the right to intervene. If the idea of private property were in any sense to be considered as mine, then that simply would not be considered reasonable or fair. But Generally speaking, some lamas tend to, in their practices or behaviors, take away those who are talented, wise, or wealthy. Those who lack sufficient wealth, notable talent, or the necessary ability are often, quite frequently, as is common, introduced to me. They tell you to find a Kenpo and often write a long letter of introduction. This is my disciple, please take care of him. This includes his daily life, his accommodation, and also his practice. Why don't they ever introduce their very best disciples to me? I guess. Just kidding. But seriously, building a solid foundation is extremely important, especially for success. If we take a closer look at the number and order of sentient beings, we'll find that those who obtain a human body are truly very few. If we use our own wisdom to carefully observe the number of all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara, when we observe the order in which they come into this world and their circumstances, we will realize that obtaining a human body in this world, in this lifetime, is indeed truly extremely, extremely rare. Said in Buddhist scriptures, the beings in hell are as numerous as the stars in the night sky, while hungry ghosts are like stars in the daytime. In terms of numbers, as everyone knows, the stars in the nighttime sky, as you may have noticed, especially on a clear autumn night, are countless. There are very many of them. But during the day, we can hardly see any stars clearly with the naked eye. Even if we can see them, it's only 1 or 2 at most. There really aren't many. So when comparing the beings in hell to, for example, the hungry ghosts, the difference in their numbers is just like the stars in the night and the stars in the day. In the same way, the hungry ghosts are as numerous as the stars at night, while animals are like the stars in the daytime. Animals are as numerous and countless as the stars at night, as if stretching endlessly across the sky, while beings in the fortunate realms are like the stars in the daytime, barely visible, almost hidden from sight. From hell beings, hungry ghosts, animals, to the 3 fortunate realms, sentient beings, are like, for example, a pyramid in the world, something iconic. The higher you go, generally, the fewer beings there are. But as you go down, especially among the beings in hell, their numbers are countless. In other words, there are an exceptionally vast and almost unimaginable number of them present. This is truly a classic viewpoint. Generally speaking, this is a common metaphor used in Buddhist scriptures. In addition, some scriptures also say this. Beings in hell are as many as dust, hungry ghosts as many as sands of the Ganges River. Compared to the dust of the earth, the sands of the Ganges are certainly not as numerous. But the number of Ganges River sands is also a metaphor often found in Buddhist scriptures for a vast number. Animals are as numerous as the countless dregs of wine, and asuras are as abundant as falling snow. But humans and celestial beings are as few as the dust on a single fingernail. Generally speaking, animals are as abundant as wine dregs extremely numerous. And compared to that, as we can very clearly see indeed, the number of asuras is truly countless, like the innumerable snowflakes whirling and swirling in the cold wintry air in winter. In comparison, that is not as many either, really. The beings among humans and gods are as rare as the dust on a fingernail, very scarce. What is the reason for this? The reason is not hard to see. We can often feel it ourselves as well. Nowadays, people in the world commit an enormous amount of negative karma. You could say that everyone is creating negative karma. When negative karma is created, the law of cause and effect, good or bad, never fails. So the result of creating negative karma will inevitably ripen in the lower realms. That's why sometimes we can see for ourselves, for example, out of 100 people, how many are truly practicing virtue. You can go to the intersections in big cities or take a look inside shops and restaurants. See if these people have generated bodhicitta and are upholding pure precepts. If they're reciting sutras and so on, are they engaging in any virtuous practices at all? But the negative karma they create through body, speech, and mind is absolutely, truly terrifying. In the early ages, people didn't even commit the 10 non-virtuous actions. During the perfect kalpa, they also did not commit them. According to history and some views from the Abhidharma Kosha, there were no beings in the hell realm. But later, as the 10 non-virtuous actions increased, especially now in the degenerate age, the negative karma created by sentient beings is truly, truly terrifying. So, generally speaking, the vast majority of ordinary people all ultimately end up in the lower realms. Because most humans engage in unwholesome actions, the 400 verses also states, because of this, most ordinary beings fall into the lower realms. Among humans, the majority often engage in unwholesome actions. For this reason, most ordinary people have no hope of liberation. They all fall into the 3 lower realms: hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. Because our habitual thoughts and intentions are all forms of negative karma. The Sutra of the Original Vows of Keshtigarbha also says this. All actions and thoughts of sentient beings in Jambudvipa are nothing but karma, only sin. Indeed, especially in the present day and age, when you happen to interact with people in big cities and actively participate in meaningful discussions with them on various topics, you realize that creating negative karma actually happens every single day, not mention entire lifetime. The karma of even one day might not be purified for millions of years. The amount of negative karma created is extremely, extremely great, while virtuous actions are exceedingly rare, almost none at all. We can think of it this way. Among all of humanity, people are, throughout the world, killing and eating meat every day. You can clearly see just how much negative karma is being created every single day. Not to mention other 7 here, many have taken monastic vows. But when you were still lay people, just think for a moment about how much negative karma you created day and night. So, when you compare this karma with the virtuous deeds you do now, can you be sure that you won't fall into the lower realms? Good and evil must be balanced. When things are balanced, ask yourself, although I have committed negative actions, my virtuous deeds clearly outweigh them. If you put your good deeds on one side and your bad deeds on the other side, oh, then there is certainly hopper right now. My good deeds are heavier. I could go straight up to the heavenly realms. There would be no problem at all in enjoying the blessings of the human or heavenly realms. Are you confident in that? Many people have already grown weary of the world, but even monastics find it hard to be certain, let alone for lay people. Those who don't believe in Buddhism, those who hold wrong views, those who slander the 3 jewels, the words and actions of these people are truly, truly frightening. So why are there so many beings in hell? We should be able to see in today's world, it really is like a living hell on earth. I often feel this way myself. Sometimes when I walk into a large restaurant, there are basically hundreds of people sitting at big tables, eating together. On every table, there are live shrimp and fish. Just from this kind of particular behavior in people, you can see clearly after these sentient beings die, they will enter the lower realms. There's really nothing more to say about it. Truly, nothing else remains to be said. No supernatural powers are needed, but their future rebirth is basically certain. As stated in the Buddhist scriptures, when you compare beings in hell to those in the human realm who practice virtuous deeds and enter the path, those who enter the path are as rare as the dust on a fingernail. The Buddha also said this in the Samyukta Agama Sutra as follows. Just like the dirt that gathers and clings beneath a fingernail, so too, in the same way, are the sentient beings who attain the precious human realm. This means that just like the tiny bit of dirt that can sometimes be found under a fingernail, a spot so small and rare that it is often overlooked, those who truly follow the virtuous path are extremely rare in our world. The virtuous path refers to living with honesty, kindness, and strong moral principles, always striving to do what is right, even when it is difficult. Just as it is uncommon, like the soil of the great earth, so too are non-human beings. This means that other sentient beings, such as non-humans, those in hell, hungry ghosts, and animals, these beings are as numerous as the soil on the earth, countless. There is a specific analogy in the Nirvana Sutra. Once, the Buddha picked up a tiny, small speck of dust from the earth and showed it to Venerable Kashyapa. Then he asked Venerable Kashyapa, "Now please tell me, is the bit of soil I am holding in my hand at this very moment considered to be very little?" The Venerable replied, "It is very little. Then the Buddha asked, "So would you say that the dust and soil of all the worlds in the 10 directions is a lot?" Venerable Kashyapa replied, "Yes, the soil of all the lands in the 10 directions is indeed a lot." Then the Buddha said, "You should know this. Those who obtain a human body and truly practice virtuous deeds are as few as the speck of dust in my hand. Whereas those who do not obtain a human body or who commit unwholesome actions, they're as numerous as the countless grains of dust that fill every land in all the 10 directions, so many that their total number is beyond calculation or imagination." This is also mentioned in some other Buddhist scriptures. Those who gain a human body are as rare as dirt on a fingernail, while those who lose it are as many as the earth. I have forgotten which specific sutra this comes from. Those who obtain a human body in this world are indeed like the dirt on a fingernail, which is truly almost nothing at all. But those who lose the human body, even though some have already obtained a human body, they have lost its true value. They are busy every day creating negative karma. So for these people, the value of the human body is completely lost. There are as many such people as there is earth in all the worlds of the 10 directions, without exaggeration. All of them fall downward into the lower realms. Therefore, in our current process of practice, you actually shouldn't think, saying they cannot or do not know how to practice the Great Perfection preliminaries, or wonder why you can't feel right. Don't think that way. In fact, practicing this is actually very easy. If you sincerely believe in the Buddhist scriptures, especially their analogies, because the Buddhist scriptures are absolutely true without any doubt. This is not just my superstition. Because I am a Buddhist, everything Buddha said is correct. It's not like that. When I carefully examine things with the highest wisdom, I find no faults. I must accept the Buddha's Vajra words. With this as the premise, I now know that the Buddhist scriptures are completely flawless, subtly correct, and pure in their language. Then the metaphors he mentioned should also be very correct. The numbers mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures, especially when compared to the sentient beings we encounter in the world, are truly remarkable. We can make a comparison. The content that the Buddha spoke of in the scriptures, if we can't connect theory with reality, then perhaps it wouldn't be reasonable, as one might expect. But in fact, we can, those who study Buddhism and those who don't. Then animals compared to humans, hungry ghosts compared to beings in hell, we should compare what we are able to. If we can't make a comparison, then for those things that are hidden from us, we rely on faith in the sacred teachings to reason it out. This is, based on the evidence presented, a correct conclusion. So here it is said in summary that those who attain a fortunate rebirth are extremely few. We can observe this ourselves. For example, in summertime, the number of living beings on just a single patch of grass, or the number of ants in a single anthill, already exceeds the human population of Jambudvipa. This is not just theory. In reality, we can actually observe this phenomenon for ourselves. In summer, generally speaking, there are many animals. Whether in Tibet or in many other places, there are just so many ants during the summer indeed, and all kinds of insects slowly start to emerge from the ground. Because of this, in many ancient and traditional monastic rules, guidelines, and regulations, especially for monastics during the summer, it is forbidden to walk around on outdoor grass. Otherwise, for example, with just a single step, or even just one movement at least, even if only on the grass, in places with beautiful flowers and green grass, in such areas, you might end up stepping on and killing more than a dozen living beings under your feet. This is absolutely certain. Although some Buddhist scriptures say that we did not step on it intentionally, if the insects under our feet are killed unintentionally, it does not result in major negative karma, but in reality, it still means taking the lives of other beings. Therefore, the Buddha required in the monastic code that during the summer, practitioners should remain in retreat for 3 months. This is the reason given as well. In this way, we understand that in the summer, you can go up the mountains or onto the grasslands to see for yourself. This is a real experiment to see what the Buddhist scriptures say about it. In reality, is there really such a huge difference in numbers between humans and other sentient beings? At that time, you can find out how many living beings there are on a single patch of land. In the past, when I was young, I often herded yaks on the cliffs and mountaintops, and in the summer, the area would be shrouded in mist. Especially when it snows, drizzles, or there are some snowflakes. A lot of different kinds of insects, such as beetles and ants, for example, naturally appear on some rocks and on the mountains throughout this region. The entire area, whether it's the roadside, rocks, or grass, It's completely covered, thoroughly and densely packed with countless tiny, minuscule black insects, all closely clustered together. There could be tens of trillions, an incredibly huge number, even on a small patch of ground. Generally speaking, we wouldn't even dare walk there because if we did, we might accidentally step on and kill countless living beings. So sometimes, through this kind of analogy, it becomes completely clear that when you really compare the number of humans to animals, the difference is still enormous. Especially when I was young, in some of the beautiful, peaceful, lush forests I visited and had the chance to explore. During winter, there were an incredible number of ants inside the anthills. Thousands, even tens of thousands, an astonishing amount. Such numbers, as a matter of fact, far exceed the human population in some regions today, often by a remarkably substantial amount. Nowadays, there is a large and unique type of fish called the sunfish, which is quite remarkable. Some people call it the ocean sunfish, while others call it the moonfish. It is one of the most prolific egg-laying creatures in the world, producing over 300 million eggs at a time. Due to the manifestation of different karmic forces, many fish have a huge number of fry inside their bellies, an astonishing amount. In comparison, there are only a little over 6 billion human beings living on Earth in the world today, which is a surprisingly small number. If you multiply the number of these fish several times over, perhaps imagining it happening again and again, it far surpasses the total number of humans currently alive in the world. So indeed, if you consider, perhaps, for example, all the insects on a single mountain, including those living in the air or the various sentient beings in the ocean, the number of humans is extremely small by comparison. No need to mention vast difference, humans and other sentient beings. We can directly compare the number of humans to that of other sentient beings. So whether it's in the summer or when we observe the truly incredible abundance and remarkable diversity of life in the vibrant, colorful and diverse underwater world all around us, we should truly feel deeply just how rare and precious a human life is. But even among some Buddhists, for example, in Hong Kong and other places in the past, I went to the beautiful local aquarium with many peaceful fellow Buddhists. It was wonderful. At that time, together with some lamas, I truly felt human life is hard to obtain true, not exaggerated. We all felt a deep sense of compassion for those beings in our hearts. But some lay practitioners seemed to feel nothing at all. They would just say, "Oh, this fish is so beautiful. Come here, you're so cute." There's nothing funny here. The difference between humans and animals is obvious to most people, as it can be seen in the way humans think, communicate, and interact with the world around them. This is something we can fully understand just by observing. The same goes for humans. If we look at the number of people living in places without the light of the Dharma, we will realize that those born in places illuminated by the Dharma are extremely rare. If we look at humanity, just now, compared to animals, humans are few and animals are many. Even among humans, if we observe closely, there are especially many people living in places without the light of the Dharma. Especially now, when we look at big cities, it's true that sometimes it's not that there's absolutely no Dharma at all. There are some Buddhists there and even some monastics. But is the Dharma truly flourishing? Not at all. Absolutely not. We often go to some cities like the bustling metropolis of Shanghai, the capital city of Beijing, and other major international cities abroad. In places with larger populations, the teachings and realization of Buddhism are extremely rare. Where the light of the Dharma exists, there are fewer people. For example, in Tibetan regions, comparatively speaking, Buddhism is flourishing to a remarkable extent, but there are really very few people. Everyone should be aware of this. Take our current residence, Ganzi Prefecture, for example. A few years ago, the entire Ganzi Prefecture had 18 counties. The population of these 18 counties is less than 1 million. However, comparatively speaking, Buddhism is quite developed here, you could say. There are 515 open monasteries throughout Ganzi Prefecture. There are also many monasteries that are not open. So on average, in some counties, it is possible that there may be as many as 40 or even 50 monasteries in each one. As for the population, for example, Cedar County has more than 40,000 people. Luhuo County has over 40, Kangding over 120, So in such a small county town, there are, in fact, 30 or 40 monasteries. And the people here, over 99% of them are, in fact, Buddhists, as you might say, so to speak, after all. But if you look at such a vast area, basically, when you really think about it, sometimes when we travel by car, it takes half a day to see a single household. The population is really sparse because places where Buddhism flourishes tend to have fewer people. On the other hand, in big cities, for example, Chengdu, which used to have a population of over 4.6 million within the city itself, including surrounding counties when combined. Years back, the population was over 9 million, and now it might be more than 10 million. Sichuan province has over 100 million people. Shanghai has more than 18 million people, and Beijing has over 16 million. Sometimes I find myself really wondering just how many monastics are there in Shanghai after all. I've looked up some information before, but I couldn't find exactly how many monastics there are. But we know how many monasteries there are in the whole city of Shanghai. Few monastics in monasteries. We also actually have a pretty clear idea of just how many monasteries there are in Beijing. You could say proportionally the population is indeed quite large. Among them, there are some lay practitioners, a certain portion. But even among the lay practitioners, some are only focused on this present life. For example, they might even worship Buddha statues in their homes, sometimes simply for the sake of family, peace, and safety. Those who truly seek liberation, who genuinely practice virtuous deeds, in a big city, how many people like that are there? For example, Shanghai has more than 18 million people. Out of those 18 million, how many truly aspire to liberation? Sometimes we can observe this for ourselves. When you really go to these big cities, since you come from a big city, you might also think about your hometown, your surroundings, and consider who is doing good. If people aren't practicing virtue after they die, how much negative karma have they accumulated? Will they fall into the lower realms? Causes bring results. They will fall into the lower realms. Because throughout their entire lives, the practice of virtuous deeds is extremely rare for them. Yet the negative karma they create is as vast as a mountain, truly terrifying. So I think, in my opinion, the fundamental principles that are commonly taught in many of the Buddhist scriptures, when you reflect on them during your practice, this is true practice. Human life is truly hard to come by. Of so many people, how many can attain liberation? For example, among the more than 10 million people in Shanghai, if we truly observe ourselves through the lens of karma and its results, are there even 10,000 people who can genuinely be confident and truly sure of being reborn as humans or gods? Are there? You can think about it for yourself. We can deduce this through observation. Doesn't this show there are many beings in lower realms? It is definitely the case, and this is the reason why. So we can also thoughtfully make comparisons from many different and unique perspectives, allowing us to see things. This is important, especially those who possess a perfect human body with all freedoms and advantages are extremely rare. Especially point mentioned earlier, the actual number of people who truly possess the 18 freedoms and advantages. As I just said, as I mentioned earlier, there are in total more than 500 monasteries in Ganzi Prefecture in the region of Ganzi, with a total of more than 50,000 monastics. Among these 50,000 monastics, how many truly possess all the freedoms and advantages? We can also observe this. Many monastics, when you examine yourself, for example, each person can do a self-assessment to see whether not complete un is missing, another is missing. Have them or not. One by one in interviews, perhaps many people need not because others say so, but they stand up themselves and say, I do not possess the 18 freedoms and advantages not complete. So in the end, how many people truly possess them? The truly accomplished great masters and elders in history did indeed possess them. Day or night they engaged in virtuous practices, which, as you can probably imagine, makes us feel extremely, almost overwhelmingly envious. In the past, when Khenpo Jinwang taught us the preliminary practices of Dzogchen, he also at that time mentioned that when you read the biographies of some great masters, the difference between them and us is vast. For example, when you read the biographies of Patrul Rinpoche and Mipham Rinpoche, you realize that sometimes Mipham Rinpoche might have spent his entire life composing treatises. Look at how many treatises he wrote even, copying them once is hard. And when you see his efforts to spread it seems that he spent his entire life teaching the Dharma. Sometimes when you see him engaging in other virtuous activities, he spent his life helping others. A person's capacity for motivation can be truly incredibly vast and expansive, especially when it is properly nurtured and thoughtfully supported, allowing it to flourish. Great masters and practitioners dedicate themselves to daily practice, reciting scriptures and cultivating the path. Just like in Patrul Rinpoche's preliminary practices, isn't it mentioned, to listen to the teachings on the preliminaries 25 times and put them into practice. Many teachers in the past have said that each time they would basically complete the 5 preliminary practices in full. But for us now, just to complete one set of the 5 preliminaries takes so much effort. A lay practitioner called me. There's absolutely no way I could do 100,000 full prostration show. Could that be possible? Even doing 100 prostrations left me gasping for 3 days and nights. Honestly, we just can't manage it. Our ability to practice virtue is extremely weak, even after a few prostrations. Look at us now. When we do prostrations for every single 15 minutes each and every day, many people feel like it's almost over, it's almost over. But if we were to engage in negative actions or indulge in distractions, let alone 15 minutes, even 10 sets of 15 minutes just fly by and we feel quite happy doing it. That's why practicing virtue is like climbing a mountain, while committing negative actions is like rolling downhill effortless and extremely easy. So we really need to understand that there aren't many people who practice virtue these days. In the process of practicing with this precious human life, we should develop a very profound understanding within ourselves. With this understanding, look at your later years. Your earlier years have already passed by in a blur anyway, but starting from this very day onward, from this moment on, how exactly will you choose to spend the rest of your life? That decision is entirely in your own hands. Will you continue to drift through life as before, or will you start anew? There's a saying in Tibet, I'm not sure if it fits here. It goes, put on new clothes, tie your belt anew. They use this phrase often. That works too, because before you weren't even dressed neatly at all. So putting on new clothes and tying your belt again means starting over. That's why from now on we should become new people. Some people really do this. They decide that for the rest of their lives, it's better to become a practitioner. Having gained such a precious human life, it would be such a waste to squander it like this. They start to think this way. So after reflecting deeply on this for quite some time, they realize that they have now truly obtained a precious human rebirth. After reflecting in this way, you realize among many you gained precious human rebirth. You should feel incredibly and deeply gratified and joyful, genuinely, truly, and wholeheartedly, absolutely delighted, without a doubt. You feel that among so many people, you now truly have a genuine opportunity to practice the Dharma. This is something extremely rare. Even though you may not have fame or fortune or any material possessions or anything else at all, this alone is truly a tremendous and remarkable honor. You should think this way. If all the qualities of a precious human rebirth were complete, then from today onward, you will have truly attained what is called a precious human life. All the aspects of a precious human rebirth mentioned would be complete. In this way, starting from today, you become someone with a precious human life. Important this is maintained long term. It may seem that you have all the 18 qualities of a precious human rebirth, but after a few days, they all disappear one by one. That would be really very unfortunate. You should strive to maintain them. If you can maintain them, then it is truly called a precious human life. In Longchenpa's Mind Nature's Rest, when discussing the precious human life, it emphasizes the essential meaning of listening, contemplation, and meditation. It is about disciplining your body, speech, and mind, practicing virtuous deeds yourself, and encouraging others to do the same. Such practice of virtue should be as steadfast as a king of mountains. The practice is as stable as the king of mountains, and such practitioners are like the supreme banners among sages. Whether lay or ordained, such a person truly possesses a precious human life. Such people, as mentioned earlier, practice like a mountain king, very stable and steadfast. It's not like you practice for a couple of days, but after 2 or 3 years, you've completely changed. It's not like that. A true practitioner, if you are the same as you were 10 years ago, and still the same 20 years later, that is a true practitioner. Some practitioners at times really simply cannot withstand external circumstances. For a while, it may seem like in front of your teacher or at the institute, under the supervision of your Vajra brothers and sisters, under their observation, you behave yourself much more properly. However, once this kind of supervision is lifted, you completely relax and start acting wildly, as if you've completely gone mad. This is simply not acceptable. One should practice consistently over the long term. This is what is called truly possessing a precious human body. Suppose there are still some shortcomings or deficiencies, then even if you are clever and resourceful, both wise and brave in worldly matters, it still cannot truly be called a precious human body. If all the freedoms and liberties from the aforementioned faults and issues are not actually present or fully realized in the given context, then no matter how clever, wise, or brave you are in the world, or regardless of how prominent your status is, how truly exceptional your wisdom is, or how widespread and far-reaching your reputation is, no matter how many virtues you possess, in fact, this still does not qualify as a precious human body. There are many highly successful entrepreneurs and influential leaders in the world, including national presidents and prime ministers. Worldly view, people might think person is remarkable. But after a few years, when your karma ripens, in some cases, it may not, in fact, be considered to be particularly meaningful at all. Perhaps attaining such a position, which may at first seem like a great achievement or a sign of success, is actually an indication that you are on the verge of falling into a lower realm, rather than continuing to rise or remain secure. There is an old saying, before falling into the lower realms, one becomes a king among humans. Before falling into the lower realms, one must create much karma, and there is still something unfulfilled. So you become a king and then fall straight down there is such a saying. Therefore, there's really nothing to be proud of at all. At best, it can only be considered an ordinary human life, or what's called a semblance of it. Or it can be called a life of calamity, a mindless one, or an empty return. These are called semblance human lives, not truly precious human lives. No matter how capable or wise you are in the world, nowadays some university professors, doctoral supervisors, postdoctoral researchers, or academicians in the world, these people often think very highly of themselves in worldly terms. Perhaps they have made some contributions in a certain field of the world, but in reality, they truly have no understanding of good and evil, and often commit many negative deeds. These are what are called barbaric beings from the borderlands. Longchenpa also said, unaware of good and evil, acting unlawfully, though possessing the basic human form, it is only a semblance. Even if one is reborn in the Central Lands, one still possesses the nature of a barbaric being from the borderlands. This means that although you are indeed reborn as a human being because you do not truly understand the virtuous Dharma and its profound significance, oftentimes in your daily life you frequently engage in various unwholesome actions and you generate and create all kinds of negative karma, which accumulates over time. Such people are called barbarians, borderland beings, and also holders of wrong views. It's frightening that some people don't believe in cause and effect. No matter how wise or capable they may be in other respects, we truly do not really praise such people. Therefore, as a sincerely genuine Buddhist, it is best not to have excessive desires in other aspects. I hope that some monastics, if you have the karmic connection to ordain in this life, will uphold pure precepts, diligently study, reflect, and practice as lay practitioners. You should keep pure precepts and diligently study the teachings. In this way, whether lay or ordained, both possess the precious human body. Otherwise, if you constantly seek the 8 worldly concerns every day, the 8 worldly concerns are meaningless. We should carefully reflect on this ourselves with great care. Only then will we come to understand this principle. Such people are like those who hold a wish-fulfilling jewel in their hands, yet waste it meaninglessly. This human life is rare and precious, but we haven't made use of its value at all. It's just like throwing a wish-fulfilling jewel into a pile of filth exactly the same. Or like having reached the land of precious gold, yet returning empty-handed. You arrive at a land where the ground is covered in gold, but when you come back, you haven't even managed to bring back nearly enough gold, not even enough to make a single ring. You return empty-handed, and many people would think that's a pity. There are so many treasures. At the very least, you could have brought me back a single earring. How could you be like this? You really are unbelievably foolish, such an idiot. People would say things like that. We are in this world, yet haven't practiced virtue. If you don't have the ability to practice many other virtuous deeds, then turn a prayer wheel and recite Avalokiteshvara's mantra every day. If you can't even do such simple virtuous acts, it's truly a shame. In this world, we often see so many countless pitiful sentient beings around us. They are born and leave not realizing life's value. In this regard, we should all give rise to compassion. In the future, if we have the ability, we should do our best to help those around us. They're pitiable. Some people seem to think that they are quite wise as they see themselves. Books describe things more frighteningly. Some even say, the deeper I fall, the happier I am. In today's society, people say that the more degenerate you are, the more beautiful you become, and the deeper you fall, the happier you are. They claim that the deeper you fall, the more valuable and contributive you are, and so on. This is a world turned upside down and gone mad. But people really don't feel it at all because they don't know the suffering of the lower realms. For example, a mentally ill person who has no idea about the suffering inside a prison. He keeps desperately and constantly praising prison, and then eventually begins committing crimes himself. When a normal person carefully sees all his spoken and unspoken words and actions, it's frightening, but persuasion doesn't work. If he is completely mentally deranged, then no one can do anything about it. So, looking at the world around us today, in our own lives, if you call someone stupid, they might really get upset and refuse to admit it. But in reality, the law of karma, the cycle of rebirth, and the truths of the world are just like this. Whether you admit it or not, anyone who commits evil deeds will, without a doubt, inevitably suffer truly immeasurable and unbearable pain and suffering in their next life as a direct result of their actions. So perhaps each of us in our own way feels very happy to have encountered such wonderful Buddhist teachings. But around us, there are still countless sentient beings who are in an extremely confused and uncertain or disoriented state, not knowing what to do, and are truly pitiable. That's why we often pray to the Guru and the Three Jewels, asking for blessings for our own mind stream. We should strive to mature our abilities quickly. To help beings, we need blessings from Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and protectors. Without such blessings, even if we really want to help sentient beings, it just doesn't work. Some time ago, a Dharma friend said, I want to help sentient beings, but on the road I slipped and fell. I'm powerless now. Right now, I have no choice but to come back. I don't know if he really slipped on the road or what happened. He made a pun, but I didn't get it either. I wanted to help sentient beings, but on the road, whoosh, I slipped and fell. If we lack blessings of Buddha's Bodhisattvas, we too will slip and fall along the way, sometimes unable to accomplish our aims. Next, as we can clearly observe, and as it is clearly stated in the verse itself, getting a human body is rarer than a wish-fulfilling jewel. Yet those without renunciation see their vain waste. Here, it provides an explanation of this in detail, through several different points. Having a human body is rare. Compared to obtaining a rare and precious wish-fulfilling jewel, gaining a human body is truly incomparable. The value of a wish-fulfilling jewel can only satisfy all our food and material needs in this life. For example, if we happen to win the lottery and get $10 million, then in this life I can buy all kinds of different types of houses, cars, and so on. It's just about enjoying life. But after these decades of life are over, there's no way to enjoy anything in future lives. The power of worldly wealth is, in reality, extremely restricted and limited. We got a human body. If we rely on this human body to genuinely practice virtuous deeds, we can completely liberate ourselves and others, fully transcending the cycle of rebirth in the three realms. So obtaining a human body and a wish-fulfilling jewel are simply incomparable. Yet in this world, there are people who have no sense of renunciation towards samsara at all, and not even a bit of reflective thought. Such people often waste their precious human life, which is as rare as a wish-fulfilling jewel. It's truly a pity. So for each of us, now we've obtained a human body, we must not waste it. We must make use of our time every single day. In fact, cherishing our human life is the same as cherishing our time. We should truly regard time as life itself and always make sure to use it very well and wisely. Within the time we have, we should do our best to practice virtuous deeds. For example, those who have made aspirations should keep making them, never let your resolve lapse. After you've made your aspirations or when you have free time, There's absolutely no need to be lazy, slack off, or sleep in at all today. If you do this every day, it's really unnecessary. People like this probably won't succeed in their own practice either. In the biography of the old master Venerable Shun, two monks thought, "The abbot isn't here today, so we can sleep in." They kept sleeping in, and as a result, spirits and deities came. Then they were severely punished by them. Such a case is recorded. For those who don't value their time and don't practice diligently, spirits and deities will often cause you trouble as well. But if you are diligent and have a strong motivation for virtuous deeds, whether you get sick or face obstacles, you don't care about it. Then even if non-human beings or perhaps some spirits want to create obstacles for you, they still won't ever succeed. So we must never, under any circumstances, let our precious human life go to waste. Meeting an extraordinary teacher is more precious than gaining a king's throne. Those who lack genuine respect, aren't they, in a sense, just treating the teacher as if they were merely an equal companion or peer? We have met a truly qualified guru, then achieving the position of a worldly king or minister, no matter how powerful or respected, can't even compare to that. Yet in this world, there are many people who have no respect for their teacher and treat their teacher just like any ordinary, everyday friend. They don't have even a trace of respect. In this case, the true wisdom and realization of the Dharma within the teacher's mind stream cannot be obtained at this time. Therefore, Luang Shenpa said in the Treasury of Pith Instructions, if the guru is regarded as an ordinary person, blessings are lost. If you regard your teacher as an ordinary person, then the spiritual blessings transmitted from the teacher's mind, definitely not available. But if you see your teacher as a Buddha, you will receive the Buddha's blessings. If you see your teacher as a bodhisattva, you receive the blessings of a bodhisattva. If you see your teacher as a noble person, then you will receive the blessings of a noble person. This is the case, for example, when your teacher says, "Do not be easily distracted." If you treat the words "do not be distracted" as they were the words of the Buddha, my teacher said this. These are his Vajra words. Look, the words "do not be distracted," 3 characters. Do not simply allow yourself to become distracted, 4 characters. Each of these 4 characters must have its own unique, distinct meaning. Wow, how fortunate I am. I'm so happy the teacher's blessing is so great. From today on, I will not be distracted. If you have even a bit of respect, you will gain that much benefit from the Dharma. You could say you have received it. But if you think, what do you mean, don't be distracted? While you yourself are distracted, if you are distracted every day yourself, and yet you still say that about me, in that case, you definitely won't receive any blessings at all. So seeing the teacher as an ordinary person, which is natural in our eyes, can still result in many faults, even if we don't always notice them. A human body's hard to get, we have it. The Dharma's hard to hear, heard it. If we do not use this precious and unique life that we have right now to attain liberation from suffering, then when, in all the countless lives to come, will we ever truly liberate ourselves? So when exactly can we truly achieve liberation in this life? It should be now, when we have encountered the Dharma and met a teacher. We should do our best to attain liberation ourselves and give rise to this aspiration. Seeking the vows of bodhicitta is more precious than obtaining official position. Those without compassion, haven't they seen people throwing stones? To aspire to bodhicitta and uphold the bodhisattva precepts, this is truly rare and precious. People hold positions, such as the position of bureau chief, department head, section chief, steward, and so on. But none of these positions can compare to this. Yet those without compassion do not cherish their bodhisattva vows. They often treat their Dharma friends or other sentient beings with malice. Sometimes they cast aside precious bodhicitta as if it were a mere stone, without a second thought. What a pity! Receiving tantric empowerment is more precious than the position of a wheel-turning king. Those without vow shaven, they let everything flow away like water east. To obtain an empowerment from the tantric scriptures is extremely rare and precious. In the world, the position of a wheel-turning king is considered rare and difficult to attain. But compared to this, it simply cannot measure up. However, the foundation of Tantra is vows, yet some people do not keep them. Without vows,
all the blessings, merit, and the wisdom transmitted through the teachings will all be lost, drifting like water. In the end, you gain no benefit in your own mind stream. You'll fall to lower realms. So among those seeking Tantra, many people nowadays have not even, in most cases, considered, they don't value vows or preliminaries. Nowadays, many people just want to receive empowerments, this empowerment. That empowerment, maybe what they're really after during the empowerment is just a bit of food and drink. Perhaps that's what they're hoping for, not truly seeking blessings and accomplishment. If you seek blessings, start by practicing the preliminaries and keeping your vows. If you haven't considered these two things, simply performing a ritual, it doesn't bring change to your mind stream. This is something we can see for ourselves. Any practitioner, if they place great importance on their vows and especially on the preliminaries, then their practice will keep progressing, steadily improving day by day. You could say that if they don't notice this, running here today and there tomorrow, constantly chasing after novel teachings every day, their mind stream will oppose the Dharma. This is something we've witnessed with our own eyesight, a fact that's undeniably and plainly clear for all to see without a doubt. And then it says, to realize the true nature of mind surpasses even seeing the Buddhas. Those who aren't diligent will remain lost in confusion. If through the pith instructions of the Guru we come to recognize the mind's true nature, this is rare, precious. If by chance you happen to see the Buddha or encounter some bodhisattvas, things not important. What matters is if you recognize the mind's true nature yourself. This is truly rare and precious. However, some people may have had the opportunity but later failed to make good use of it. For example, you may have already recognized the true nature of mind in the presence of your guru and genuinely realized the mind's nature through the guru's pith instructions. But later on, perhaps due to various distractions, if you do not maintain recognition, as Jigme Lingpa said, when beginners first recognize the true nature of mind or realize, it's just like sunlight breaking through the clouds soon. It is covered again by clouds of discursive thoughts. In the same way, if we, in the context of Vajrayana practice, rely on the Guru's guidance, see mind's nature, we must keep practicing continuously without stopping. I see that many people have probably received a great deal of mind training teachings and have realized something about themselves. Keep getting used to it and practicing. Otherwise, after a certain point, it's actually very easy to get lost again. So for those who lack diligence, isn't it inevitable that they will fall into confusion? We'll stop here today.
Om